Hello everybody, welcome to another video. Now I've come today to RSPB Langford Lowfields. It's one of their sort of RSB reserves that we've got fairly close to us. Idea is today I'm going to take this, which is the 40-150 f2.8 Pro with the 1.4 times teleconverter on it. I'm going to see what sort of shots we can get. The light's not fantastic, pretty grim day per normal. We're going to see what I can get and see what sort of wildlife's around. So come and take a wander with us. So the first thing you do notice about the 40-150 is it's quite a compact lens really. Considering its focal length, you'd think it'd have to be a little bit bigger at f2.8, but it's not too bad. The big thing is it's internally zoomed. So as you zoom, the lens doesn't actually increase in size, which is a really handy sort of feature with it. So it keeps the lens in really quite a compact area. The other thing you do tend to notice as well is you've actually got a removable shoe. And I'll pop the shot of it up now, so you can actually see the shoe itself is sort of removable. You literally unscrew it, twizzle it to the side, get to the right position, you can take that off. Now I've got a little sort of band that I can put around that, but you can actually get an actual sort of proper trim ring to actually sort of tidy that up once you've actually got that off there. Really handy way of doing it, so you don't actually have the extra weight of the shoe if you're not going to be using it on a tripod. Weight wise, it's perfectly manageable. Yeah, it's a bit more than the 12-100, but it's a lot less than the 300, so it's handy for a bit of a walk around lens. Popping the 1.4 teleconverter on, it only drops it down to f4, but you do gain that extra range, which is quite handy. The first thing you do notice about using the 40-150 is you don't have the Sync IS like you do with the 300. Now, it's something I mentioned on previous video. I've got used to having the Sync IS running, and it's really strange using one without. You do get used to it fairly quickly, but initially you think, oh, what's going on? I've not got my stability. It's like, yes you have, you've just not got that extra 2 or 3 stops of stability that you used to with the Sync IS. But it's not something you really sort of notice once you've actually got used to running a standard lens again. Big thing you do tend to notice though, especially compared to the 300, the weight of it. You can just throw it around. There's not really sort of the issue that you get with the 300 where, you know, you have to put it on a side strap. You can't really sort of just hang it around. It does help out to actually have that slung at the side, so you're not sort of putting too much strain on your back or your neck or anything like that. Certainly it's an easy handheld something which gives you a bit of an option. Without the teleconverter, it's a good full frame equivalent of 80 to 300, which isn't a bad range really. Pop the teleconverter on there, obviously it's 1.4 times larger. Can't do the math in my head at the moment, pop it down here what the range actually works out to. But yeah, it gives you a good extra boost. You can run it with a 2 times teleconverter as well, which obviously sort of doubles the range, but it does drop it down to an f5.6 if I remember rightly. So you do obviously lose like a couple of stops of light through it. Still not too bad, but yeah, for me the 1.4 seems to sort of work just about right. You get a nice range to it, and it just gives you an option that if something a little bit closer, you can just pull out a little bit, which obviously the 300 doesn't give you that option. And because the blend isn't massively bulky, it means I don't need to go out with rucksack or anything like that, or large straps or anything. Literally, I've got side bag, bang you down, which has got the mic on, so that. And that literally just sits on a little capture clip at the side. It's not massively heavy, like I say, it's not much more weight than the 12-100, so yeah, just carry it around. I've got a couple of extra bits and bobs in the bag just to keep things weighted. One of the things is actually what I'm filming on now, which is the EM1 Mark II. So it's well balanced, you can sort of get away with it. It's the sort of ideal sort of carry around, sort of semi strong telephoto really. Gives you some lovely results without sort of paying the price of the weight. I mean, I will admit, I would love to have a try of the Olympus 150 to 400. Their sort of big, massive wildlife lens. I know I'd not be able to carry it anywhere, it'd absolutely kill me, but I'd love to have a go with it because people say it's the best wildlife lens they've ever used. I don't know, one day I might give it a try, but yeah, some words will have to be had to actually get hold of one of those, I think. So this is the main site. Big wetland area, reed beds. It's the sort of place that it just attracts wildlife so well. That's something the RSPB do really well. Couple of feeders dotted around as well, but some lovely viewing platforms, a bit of a wander around as well that you can do. I've already spotted just over there some cormorants sat on tiles, sort of just doing what cormorants do really. So hopefully I'll be able to get something sort of mid-distance, which is ideal for the lens. See what sort of clarity we can get out of it. For the most part on this one, it'll just be sort of shots that will be thrown up right at the end rather than sort of bits interspersed unless something particularly special pops up. But yeah, we'll have a bit of a wander now, see what we can find, so we can get some shots off. Obviously, having feeders around, it's not just sort of the wild birds that are catered for, it's also like the songbirds and sort of the general garden birds. There do seem to be quite a few sort of dotted around. Even just as you come in the reserve, there's a great section there with feeders. Some quite unusual sort of bits to actually see. Normally sort of on a lot of reserves there's very sort of much anti-feeder, it's all about that, but yeah, this one and when we went to Oldmoor a few weeks back, they're very much inclusive of all bird types. It's really nice to see. Yeah, so one of the big reasons I actually went for the 40 to 150 was I wanted a bit of a walk around lens that had a bit more clarity than the 75 to 300, which is a fine lens, but you do tend to find, especially when you've used the Pro Glass, you miss that absolute sort of pinch out clarity that you do tend to get with it. It's a cracking lens. It's one of those sort of, if you're just sort of starting out, you don't want to spend too much, get a 75 to 300. It will serve you absolutely perfectly. But as soon as you sort of get into the pro realms, it changes your outlook on it, which is why I end up going for initially the 300, and like I said, now the 40 to 150. It's a useful range. It gives a reasonable sort of amount of sort of zoom level. Yeah, it's not going to be to the level of the 300, especially with 300 with a teleconverter on, but it's enough as just general sort of out and about. You don't really know what sort of things are going to crop up, so it gives you a few options. So yeah, handy on that one. Also, the used prices, they're not too bad. I think I paid something like £7.50 for this one that I've got. That's pounds, which, to be fair, isn't actually too bad for one of the Pro lenses. You can get cheaper ones, depends on what sort of condition you really want. I went for one that's in good conditions, a couple of little scuffs on the hood, but nothing too major at all. You can get ones in slightly worse conditions, but because they're so bulletproof, cosmetically they can be quite rough, but they work perfectly. So yeah, it's one of those sort of trade-offs to how much you want to spend. You can sort of go completely mad and sort of get one that's either like new or actually buy new because they're still available through Olympus, regardless. But yeah, it's a nice sort of setup. Weight-wise, it seems to be well balanced with the OM one as well, without the shoe on. Like I say, similar to the 12 to 100, maybe a little bit heavier, but yeah, not too bad at all. I do like the fact that it's got an integrated hood as well, a bit like the 300, so you can literally just pull that out and it just locks into place. Really handy, especially if you've got sort of slightly inclement conditions. It keeps rain off the element, which is really good for getting a clear shot. So is the 4150 ideal for long distance stuff? Not really. It's not really got the range, although it's got the clarity. You don't really want to be cropping down something that's like a tiny little bit in the frame. It's the ideal thing though if you've got mid-range stuff, so stuff that's like within, I don't know, probably about sort of 30 feet or something like that. You can get decent clarity, and with the zoom, especially with the 1.4 teleconverter on it, it gives you that nice little bit of extra room. Yes, it does slow the focusing down a little bit with the teleconverter on, but it's still not bad. I'm going to do a couple of tests without the teleconverter on to see what difference it makes. I've just got to try and find a decent subject that's close enough to actually get the test done right. Like I said, the light's still absolutely atrocious. The sun keeps on coming out, gives you a little bit of hope, and then just it completely socked in again. It's horrible. But yeah, some nice little sort of patterns around here that hopefully be able to get a couple of shots off and get something a little bit different. Some of the grasses and the reeds and that are actually quite interesting as well. I've got a couple of shots of those that looks like I'll pop at the end as well. That, yeah, it works quite well. It's not too bad at all. Looks like I'm going to swap out the teleconverter now and actually do the rest of the walk, because we've actually come down to the end of what's called the seasonal trail. It was like a there and back trail, and then we're sort of going to head back, so see if we can spot anything. We were told by one of the volunteers that works here that the small birded tits have been spotted, and the marsh harriers, which is why we've come down here. So we'll have to sit here for half hour or so and see if anything pops up. Be nice if we do spot them, but yeah, not going to add too much out, because like I say, it's one of those that, like I say, at the moment, right the way over in the distance over there, I can actually see an egret. Even with the 300, you'd never get that, it's a mile away. But yeah, we'll see what pops up and get some shots off. So overall, I'm reasonably impressed with the quality of the 40 to 150. It's kind of a tough one to test properly today, but it's given us a bit of an insight as to what sort of things are about. Now, we're planning on sort of heading to another nature reserve a bit later on. Man's going to try and pick up a Starling murmuration. Now, whether that'll work, I don't know, but we're going to give it a go. So I might sort of get a few more shots in sort of over this weekend. I'll tag those on at the end. But yeah, in general, yeah, I think it's a worthwhile purchase. Yeah, the range isn't as amazing as the 300, and the quality is not quite up there with the 300. It's nice that it's an f2.8 with that teleconverter on, so it is nice and fast. So if you've got awkward light conditions like we've got today, it's not too bad for actually sort of rattling off some reasonably fast shots, and you're not worrying too much about bumping your ISO up too far. But I think the key to it is, if you're happy with the compromise in the range, it gives you sort of a fantastic result. I certainly wouldn't want to go more than this without sync IS, I don't think. Certainly with it teleconverted up, you can feel there's a bit of a difference in there. It's not quite as clear and smooth as you get with the 300 with the sync IS on it, or indeed the 12 to 100. One thing is a real big shame you can't use the teleconverter on the 12 to 100. That would be an amazing setup. But yeah, it's a good setup. It gives you a good range, and certainly so for a carry around wildlife lens, it's ideal. It gives you that bit extra than say the 14 to 150 gives you just the normal Olympus lens, because you're getting the clarity of the Pro glass. You're also getting the full weather sealing right up with the Pro level. Although the 14 to 150 is weather sealed, it's not to the level of the natural Pro glass, but it's something that, yeah, glad we've got it, and I think it will come in useful, especially for some of the mid-range stuff. Certainly the speed of it is quite handy. f2.8 does give you quite a few options to actually sort of bring some nice sort of detail forward, especially if you've got stuff that's sort of fairly close on but you've got a bit of a messy background. You can just blur that out completely. Great for small birds and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll be doing a bit more with that. Looks like I've dropped the teleconverter off now. What I'll do, I'll sort of do a few more shots around as we're sort of wandering. If anything sort of particularly fantastic pops up, yeah, I'll also get a few shots of that as well. But yeah, it's been a good test. We've quite enjoyed it. Going to sort of wander back around the reserve now. It's a fair size, so it'll take us a while. But yeah, like I say, if you've enjoyed this, please do give us a thumbs up. And if there's any comments you've got about the 40 to 150, or indeed any of the Olympus gear, drop us a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. But for now, we'll sort of head over to the back end of the reserve, I think, and start heading back. But yeah, thanks for watching. Okay, if you're not subscribed, do hit that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel. That and liking the video, it's one of the greatest things that you can do to sort of, yeah, help the channel move along, and it doesn't cost you a penny, so absolutely spot on. But yeah, for now, we'll see you on the next one. Take care.